Hi, this is Scott Garibay, and today we're going to talk about Dungeons and Dragons, and we're going to talk about Stranger Things, and we are specifically going to talk about the destruction of Castle Byers and Dungeons and Dragons. So I'm absolutely fascinated by the Dungeons and Dragons Stranger Things link. The more I think about it, the more I realize this is really like a big deal. So Dungeons and Dragons is the number one tabletop role playing game in the world, without question. And then, in addition to that, Stranger Things is the number one streaming show in the world. Season 4 is about to open. Stranger Things season 4 is about to drop. Stranger Things season 4 is going to open with the Hellfire Club, which is literally the Dungeons and Dragons club. Right, so Dungeons and Dragons and Stranger Things are very closely braided, and it's a big deal. And I love Dungeons and Dragons so much. And one of the things I can tell you, I don't need to sell you on this. Dungeons and Dragons is a historical American property. There are dissertations written about it every single year. There are more and more scholarly books being written about Dungeons and Dragons. And one of the things is I have a book, Dungeons and Dragons Art and Arcana, right? It is a hugely scholarly approach to Dungeons and Dragons art over, and all the products that have come out over decades, right? And I'm telling you, there are going to be books written in the future that talk about the impact that Stranger Things had on Dungeons and Dragons. And get this, flipping it, the impact Dungeons and Dragons had on America through streaming, right? It is not a coincidence that the biggest streaming show in the world has Dungeons & Dragons at the heart of it. And that is no exaggeration. Stranger Things is marinated in Dungeons & Dragons. They use it as a metaphor. They use it literally in the storyline. It is name-checked constantly. There are multiple episodes that start with Dungeons & Dragons. Every season of Stranger Things has Dungeons & Dragons. These things are tightly braided. And what gets crazier, right? What gets even more outlandish, right, is Wizards of the Coast has really bought into Stranger Things as a vehicle for Dungeons and Dragons, and they did that through their official product, which, as long as that thing is bought and sold and is still available, they're saying, hey, we're signing off on what's happening, on what Stranger Things is saying about Dungeons and Dragons. So let's look at one of the things that happens in Stranger Things. So, Season 3. You have the main party, right? You have the main traditional historical party, right? Whale DM, Will, Lucas, Dustin, Mike, okay? Mike is the traditional dungeon master, okay? And Will and Lucas and Dustin play in his game, and they're engaged, good players. But Will is one of the best players, right? He pays attention, he's engaged, he runs Will the Wise, right? And he does a good job with his character, right? And he pays proper respect and attention when Mike is running as the dungeon master. Well, in season 3, Mike gets a girlfriend, Elle, and goes, oh, D&D isn't important anymore. And Will's like, hey, please, can we play some Dungeons and Dragons, right? And Mike just ain't feeling it because he's like, I really don't care about the party anymore. I have a girlfriend now, so y'all can go kick rocks, right? And finally, Will's like, okay, listen, you are literally broken up with your girlfriend. We're playing Dungeons and Dragons this morning. And he has put together this good campaign. He's got his robe on and his, dope wizard hat. And he's like, come play D&D, and I'm going to Dungeon Master. And Mike, right, who owes Will the same engagement that Will gave him when he was a dungeon master, is just bog awful to him and treats him horribly, right? No attention to the game. Like, oh, I don't want to do this. He's like, oh, when I'm dungeon master, all y'all can just, bow to my every word. But when you're dungeon master, Will, I don't give a rat's, right? And it's just so horrible and awful, right? And Lucas does the same, and Dustin isn't even there, right? So the party has fully abandoned Will, right? Will goes back to his home, and he feels so bad he can't even go into his house, right? And so what he does is he goes out to Castle Byers, Stranger Things has told us what Castle Byers is. Castle Byers is a fort that Jonathan, Will's older brother, built with Will in the rain when they lost their father, right? Like their father leaves them, right? Says, I reject you as a parent. You are my child and I leave you. I reject you. I forget you, right? This is the deepest cut you can have as a human, to have a parent walk away from you and say, I brought you into this world and I reject you. I leave you. I give you nothing. Bye. Deepest cut, right? Castle Byers is like this beautiful moment of family bonding where your older brother builds this fort with you. And this is a special place for Will. And he has gone here many times. It is a refuge from the world. It's filled with dragon magazines, right? And it's precious, right? And when Will is disrespected as a dungeon master, when Dungeons and Dragons is taken from him, he goes to Castle Byers and he looks at the dragon magazines filling it there. And he's like, I can't have this. Dungeons and Dragons isn't possible now because my friends have forsaken me and Dungeons and Dragons is taken from me. You know what Will does at that moment? His angst and his pain and his loss of his D&D campaign is enough that he takes a baseball bat and shatters Castle Byers, knocks it to the studs, destroys it, right? And and is just distraught and broken, right? This is what Wizards of the Coast is telling you about Dungeons and Dragons. It's saying, oh yeah, we totally understand that if you lose this game, it will break you, right? They are signing off on that by signing on to Stranger Things. They're not saying, oh no, this is outrageous. This is just a game. This is Candyland. Your world will be unaffected. You will remain unaffected. They're going, oh yeah, absolutely. If you lose your Dungeons and Dragons game, you're going to be broken. Fundamentally broken. Willing to destroy things that are precious, right? That's what they're saying by making this product and saying brand synergy. They're saying we accept this vision of what we do. Because at the end of the day, in my humble opinion, a lot of the employees at Wizards of the Coast know, in my humble opinion, that what I'm saying is true. Dungeons & Dragons was never a game. It's always been more. It's always been 100 times more than that. And only the most stunted intellect individuals in this nation think that Dungeons & Dragons is a game. And honestly, in my humble opinion, I don't think many people at Wizards of the Coast that work there and care about it believe for 1 second that Dungeons & Dragons is a game. I think they know exactly what it is. At minimum, it's a life brand. At minimum, it's a path to human improvement, right? It's just so much more. And to try to squeeze this thing into the word game and to watch the destruction of Castle Byers, which Wizards of the Coast has signed off on, saying, no, this isn't some outrageous idea of what Dungeons and Dragons is and how it's affecting. They're like, oh yeah, sure, of course. Here's our Stranger Things Dungeons and Dragons starter set. Enjoy it. Of course these are bound together. And the view of Dungeons and Dragons purported by Stranger Things is official. And literally canon, right? Like D&D, Stranger Things is canon. It comes in a printed box, right? Like they are together, right? And so it's pretty incredible, right? And I just really felt terrible for Will, but I also, you have to have your eyes sewn shut to think this thing is a game. Like, it's just, there's so much evidence that it's so much more than that. And Wizards of the Coast is, in my humble opinion, putting that evidence right in front of your face every day that this thing streams on Netflix, right? Well, that's my opinion. I'd love to hear yours. Let me know in the comments below. Please consider liking and subscribing, and have a wonderful millennium.